Okay, I guess this will be part two to my original sexuality blog thing. I just got out of work about an hour or so ago, maybe a little bit more. And since the sun's going, I have to use the room with my light again, so that's why the quality's kind of dumbed down. And I had to move my camera so I can get a little closer. Maybe the quality would be better. And because of where I have my headphones or my headset positioned, the audio quality might be a little off. And right now I'm using actually the TV of my light to help give some better light coming in this way, so I'll see how that goes. But alright, yeah, continuing what I was saying about sexuality, I think I ended off with homosexuality. Oh yeah, I wanted to move on to some of the stuff that's like some of the stranger aspects of sexuality. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of really strange aspects of it, but I mean, like, and when I say strange, I mean like the stuff people usually don't look at as normal. In fact, most people probably look at it as bad. Uh, I'm not here to judge. Don't get me wrong. I'm not siding with anybody. I'm just gonna give my opinions on stuff. Starting with pedophiles and pedophilia. You know, the whole like I guess you break the word down. It means like love of children or something like that. Funny thing about this word itself, actually, when I was taking my Latin, I I knew what pedophile meant, but then I had to ask the teacher, how does someone not misconstrue pedophile for meaning love of like feet or something? Because ped in Latin means foot or on foot or something like that, like pedestrian, people on foot. Uh, and it turns out, despite the fact that most of our words derive from Latin, pedophile, the PED, I think, and pedophile actually derives from Greek, interestingly enough. But yeah, which means child. So I found that kind of interesting. Anyways, um, that's that could be a bunch of different stuff. I personally find it creepy. Having a younger sister of my own, she's 9 years younger than I am. I tend to be quite passionate about hearing about stuff like this, and so I'll tend to act out quite forcefully when it comes to situations like this. So I worry about how the world will take to her and how she'll take to the world and stuff like that. So I'm just like, man, all the weirdos out there, just please leave my sister alone and all that stuff. Um, yeah, I don't know what to really say about like pedophiles in particular. I mean, I guess you can get a different psych profile for every one of them, but I guess pedophilia in particular just kind of comes across as it almost is like when you look at sexuality and you want to make it analogous to uh, well, I guess just any kind of aggressive behavior in any way. Or I guess I would probably look at pedophilia as like the bullying kind of end of sexuality. It's like you go for the weaker. That's kind of just how I look at it. I'm sure there's more to it. I guess if you ask a pedophile himself or herself, I'm sure you can get a more straightforward answer. But that's just kind of how I think it is. It's just sort of like sexual bullies, I guess. I guess the same could go for like rape and stuff like that. The next one, I probably say more on that, but my head's a little mixed up right now. It's really hot here. My computer actually had to shut down earlier, like an emergency shutdown because it was overheating. So yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna move on. Necrophilia. Uh, Breaking that down, I guess, and I think this one actually is strictly Latin. It's the love of dead things, like to love dead things. And usually when it's used necrophiliac in that term, it usually means someone who physically loves dead things. And I say dead things because I'm pretty sure it doesn't specify. But yeah, necrophiliac is someone who has sex with dead people, or just dead things. Honestly, I'm at a bit of a loss for that one. Necrophilia. That, like, if pedophiles are the bullies of the sexual world, like, just kind of how I'm looking at it, then I guess the necrophiliacs are just the outcasts, like the pure and utter outcasts, like nothing else Nothing else in the sexual like realm can appease them or will accept them. So they kind of just turn to things that they don't have to worry about acceptance for. Like, apparently, not even masturbating works for them. So they turn to dead things for sex and whatever. I'm also sure the necrophiliacs have other, like, motives beyond actual, like, sex. Like, maybe it's. This sounds weird, but it might be a dominance thing, who knows? Like, apparently, rape is usually about, like, a power difference thing. Maybe it's the same with necrophilia, but I really, really don't see where they could come in. And maybe it's like, I guess the same argument could be given for like people who rape. It's like, well, they were defenseless, and it's like you can kind of give that same defense for a dead body. It's like, well, they couldn't really do anything to defend themselves against you, so it's not like they had asked for it. But yeah, necrophilia is another one that kind of it throws itself in the heap for me with like just the wacky sexual stuff that humans have found themselves in. Now I noticed too, like sexuality is its own monster in human lives. It hits its own world. Like, I mean, you go into different branches like that I've mentioned before. Um, let's see, there's one more. Oh, I'm pretty sure it's called zoophilia, like zoophilia or something along those lines. What's more commonly known as bestiality, which is basically just the physical love of animals, non-human things. I don't know about plants. I think plants actually have another name. Actually, I looked that up at some point last semester with Kevin just because we were curious. I don't remember what it was, but that apparently there's a name for that too. But yeah, the bestialities. Like I try to come into this like with my opinions and stuff, but this is another one where I just kind of find myself at a loss for. Um, like if having sex with dead things wasn't desperate, like that's desperate. Like you have to go some pretty crazy extremes to have access to a dead body. I mean, beyond killing someone yourself. And then animals. It's like, ugh, I don't even know. I know the rumor of AIDS starting from like sex with an animal or something, but I don't know. I could imagine, just generally speaking, nothing good can come from it. Physically speaking, I mean, they always tell you to stay away from animals in the wild or whatever because of rabies and whatever when they bite or scratch you or whatever, however you get rabies. But I mean, I could imagine you can get pretty bad stuff by rubbing animals all over your genitals or whatever. Um, now, reminds me of this thing that Kevin and I used to like to joke around about when we would just sort of mess with the prefixes and suffixes of words, just to see how they'd come out. Like, we'd take the different meanings of the prefixes and suffixes, and then we'd see what it would actually mean when it came out, and we came up with some pretty wacky stuff. It was either Kevin or Jim who came up with this one. This one was pretty funny, though. Funny, actually, no, it's actually quite horrifying, but it was funny at the time being. It was one of those things where we're up at 3:30 in the morning and everything was funny. What was it? It was like necropedozoophilia or like bestiality or something. However, it was mashed together. It took those three things that I just mentioned in this video and put them together as like one thing, and it effectively broke down to mean like a person who has sex with dead baby animals. Like it when you break it down like that, it sounds horrifying. But when we finally broke it down to ourselves, we had to break it down slowly. It was like dead childlike, your infant, uh, non-human things, and it just, of course, the whole like, ugh, like just hits us all at once. Like all three of us in the room were like, oh, God, why? But we did stuff like that, and that was one of the things that came out of it. And here I am running out of time again. I don't know. This was actually kind of interesting. I might come back to this one later too, but I think I got most of what I wanted to get out today. So I'll come back with something hopefully later, something a little less gooky.